all the great governments, all the great religions, all the great businesses would find it devastating to their activity to find humanity a success. They're all predicated on man being an inherent failure. There's got to be suffering and so forth, and then comfort them, and then they'll follow our leadership. But Mr. Fuller, call me Trim Tab, good old Bucky. Yes, my whole YouTube channel is about getting you trim tabs out there to turn this ship the other direction, isn't it? I love it when I study someone like Bucky, and I have one of my epiphanies confirmed by someone else's epiphany. I was watching a video of Bucky the other day, and he was saying this is one of his epiphanies. He finally realized what was going on. All the great governments, all the great religions, all the great businesses, they'd all be devastated if we weren't so sick and we're suffering. There's got to be suffering for the status quo to remain the status quo. That's why all of our so-called experts are clueless when it comes to this. My God, I was watching this horrible debate this morning. I knew I didn't even want to get into it because it would infuriate me, because I knew both sides would be incompetent in discussing this topic. Although there were some better representatives than you would find in many other debates. But you always have the bullshit people who are defending the system we have that doesn't have any solutions. And what I'm talking about now is a debate about vaccines. And I know for a fact that our so-called experts are not qualified to give their opinion on it, yet they're going to try to chime in and act like as if they're the only ones who are the experts, and that's the furthest from the truth. Two things you have to understand about anything that's profound, especially something like vaccines. You have to understand, and one, the cause of disease, and everyone that was on that panel didn't understand the cause. And one of them was Brian Clement from the Hippocrates Health Institute, and he understands the cause better than most, but he doesn't understand it well enough, because when the opposition, those evil people trying to say vaccines are okay, they're saying, yeah, but they're effective, they got rid of the diseases. He didn't even understand that, no, they didn't get rid of polio. That's hokum. None of these vaccines that supposedly eradicated these diseases of filth got rid of anything. It's a lie. I'm going to put a link down below to a video I did a while back called Vax, the truth about vaccines. There's four main issues you have to look at when you talk about something this complicated. And number one, you have to be able to understand everything. It's all about understanding. You have to know about the cause of disease. If you don't understand the cause of disease, you'll know that you won't understand that vaccines didn't heal anything. They weren't a solution. And then every argument these guys made for vaccines, you could tell they were shills. It was all deception. So number one, you have to understand the cause of disease. Number two, you have to understand how the world works. We've got sick people in charge that are controlling what our so-called experts know. So they get shills to back up and go into debates and try to continue the confusion. So no, you can't prove that this poison causes this disease. Well, just because, but wait a second, we know this poison has this in it. We know it causes this. Why can't we say that it also causes that? Talking about the mercury and the other things that are bad inside the vaccines. Oh, you can't prove that this causes autism. Bullshit. Look what mercury does. Look at the damage mercury does. Why they put it in our teeth, why they put it in the vaccines, it's by design. We have sick people who rule the world. It's all based on our suffering. That's why I say on my channel, there's the ultimate tool of control. It's our health. There's got to be suffering for the status quo to remain the status quo. It's that simple. There are no chemical solutions for lifestyle-related problems. And what you're going to find is that we've got a lot of ill-informed so-called experts that we cannot trust. And yet, when you even bring up the subject of vaccines, it's difficult to have an intelligent conversation about it. Because the powers that be have done such a great job of programming us, socially injuring us, to make us think a certain way, have certain attitudes. We're all suffering from NIMBY consciousness. Not in my backyard. Heard this guy talking about this the other day. NIMBY consciousness. Not in my backyard. It's socially engineered to make us not care about other people. Don't poop in my backyard. I don't give a poop what's in your backyard. There's no such thing as someone else's backyard. It doesn't exist because we're all one. That's what these people don't understand. And it's not just being socially engineered. It all starts with our food. It all starts with the very first mistake we made, the fall of mankind. Cooking of the food, destroying the biophotons, destroying one of our senses. That's why we have NIMBY consciousness. That's why we don't care about other people. We don't feel the connection like we should. If you don't understand the raw food, cooked food connection, our perspective, you don't understand anything profound. And you have to understand how the immense ramifications that come by having the wrong mentality, which is what happens when we only have 5 and a fraction senses. We should have 6 senses. Now, a lot of people get confused on this because they think, well, wait a second, these people are pretty good people and they're making these mistakes. A lot of people do really well with only 5 and a fraction of a sense of their senses. But what hardly anyone can comprehend is what would happen if we all had all 6 of our senses. That 6th sense we're missing so much that creates this NIMBY consciousness where we don't care about other people. Now, I'm not saying that all you gotta do is stop cooking your food and all of a sudden you're gonna have more empathy for everyone. We've still been engineered. Remember, de-indoctrination comes with detoxification. You gotta clean out all the garbage they've been putting in us, not just in our body, but in our brains that have been bombarded with so much bullshit that we have become brain dead on subjects that are so important because it has to do with the ultimate tool of control, our health. There's gotta be suffering. Bucky figured that out, and yet he didn't even understand or everything I know about why we're sick. But yet he saw the problem that we have, because he was a smart man. He's one of 20th century's greatest thinkers. The geodesic dome. Again, I love it when I find someone who has an epiphany that I've realized. I know that it's all about our health. I understand that. Another thing I loved about Bucky when I studied him after I created my special teaching tool, he said something that if you're going to teach somebody something, don't try to teach them, give them a tool, the use of which they can use to learn. That's what I've done with my special teaching tool, which is all designed to make things simple. It's called the Ultimate Schematic. I'll put a link down below. It's always in my videos and all my links. It behooves all of us to understand this so we won't be so easily tricked and fooled and easily bamboozled. And then if you've never tested an idea as time has come, if you've never taken a solid food vacation and gone the distance and realized what you're missing, and you'll never really understand the true cause of disease. And then you're going to be easily tricked and fooled into thinking that, well, vaccines eradicated some diseases, they eradicated polio. No, they didn't. It had nothing to do with vaccines. It had to do with the poison they were spraying on our food, DDT. I've talked about this before. Watch the documentary Vaxxed. Put a link down below, where I explain the truth about vaccines. And I've gone into this in many other of my videos explaining that one of the most important things the powers that be want us to believe in is this contagion myth, because it's all about our suffering. There's got to be suffering on this planet for it to stay the way it is. That means our so-called experts are not our experts. Nutritionists don't know anything about what to eat. Doctors don't know anything about the cause of disease. They're not qualified to have this debate. As I mentioned when I talked about healthcare, very few people are truly qualified to talk about healthcare. If you don't know the cause of disease, you're not qualified. You don't realize the system we have in charge right now is put there on purpose. It's the worst of all the systems we could ever use to deal with lifestyle-related problems. At least the other protocols out there that are treating symptoms don't harm the body in the same way the system we have now that is put there on purpose to make us keep suffering. It's about our suffering. And it's needless, and that can all change. So what does the average person do? How can we make any sense out of this? Well, if you haven't taken a solid food vacation, if you haven't gone the distance, at least have that light bulb moment, and hopefully have that aha moment, especially if you've had a lot of health challenges, dozens of problems, they go away after several months of not putting the garbage in and getting it all out of you. You have that aha moment. You have an epiphany where you finally understand the cause of disease. You understand why you're not going to be getting sick like everyone else. You're going to realize you don't have to save a fortune to retire and then have no quality of life after you retire. This world is insane. And like good old Bucky was talking about the other day, it's all about having this option. We have the knowledge to solve our problems, but there's too much misinformation. There's not enough reliable information. It's time for a new generation out there to fall in love with this knowledge and share it and apply it. Jump on the hero's journey, put some meaning in your life, and I can guarantee you, when you do it, when you can do that in your life, when you can put some meaning in your life, when you can test that idea as time has come, when you can prove to yourself that it's true, and then you go around and help other people and share it with everyone you know, what can I tell you? We're going to reach the tipping point and we're all in for a treat.